Today's episode is brought to you by Microsoft Dragon Copilot, your AI assistant for clinical workflow, helping to ease administrative burden, automatically document care, streamline your workflow. How many workflows do you have?
About 1 million.
I've got the same on the medical side of things. And all of this, Microsoft Dragon Copilot helps to promote a more focused clinician-patient experience, which is really what it's all about, just trying to make your job a little bit easier. Learn about how Dragon Copilot can transform the way you work. Visit aka.ms/knockknockhi. Again, that's aka.ms/knockknockhi.
Knock, knock. Hi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knock Knock I with me, your host, Dr. Glockenflecken, your one-stop shop for all things eyeball related. We are going to proceed with part 2 of 40-year-old advice. 40-year-old advice giver. I am 40 years old, and I am telling you things I've learned as a 40-year-old. I did last week, I did like a dozen or so things. I got another dozen or so things. So we're going to go through that. And I have an eyeball topic based on a patient. I'll try to present it to you in an unknown patient walks in, try to figure out what's going on type of thing. All right. So let's just jump into the advice. I put a lot of thought into this. Not really, just kind of like throughout my day. Just what are the things that I have learned in my 40 years of life on this earth? All right, so I'm going to start with an eyeball one. Guys, just wear safety glasses. I know I harp on this. Every week I see it. So let me just tell you, like the most common thing is metal grinding. The second is probably working on your car, motorcycle, whatever, underneath something that has metal all over it, and you're hammering things, you're unscrewing things, you're winching things. I don't know, whatever it is. I'm not a car guy, okay? But the point is that things just fall into your face. And I swear most of the time people are like, Doc, I was wearing safety glasses. I'd say it's probably true like half the time. To be honest, once you come in to see me, it doesn't really matter. The damage is done, right? You got your metallic foreign body in or around your eye. All right. So I'm going to take you through like best case scenario to worst case scenario for not wearing safety glasses. Best case scenario is you have a corneal metallic foreign body. Lands right on your cornea. It's painful. Like it's uncomfortable. It feels like you have like a big rock in your eye because you kind of do. It's made of metal, but it's still kind of a rock. And it sticks. It hits your eye with enough force that it will stick onto the cornea. And if we recall from our prior conversations over the past year, the cornea is the most sensitive part of the body. And so whenever something's on it, a foreign body, you're going to get inflammation and you're going to get pain because you got lots of nerves on your cornea. So that's usually when they come into the emergency room. And then emergency physicians are usually pretty good at getting out foreign bodies because they see enough of them. But the ones that they can't get out, or they don't feel comfortable doing it, or they take it out, but the foreign body has been on the eye for a significant amount of time, then they'll send it to me because they have a residual rust ring. That's right. These things, when they sit on the eye, they cause rust. So you get rust in your cornea. That requires me to do a little bit extra digging to get it out, which just delays the amount of time that you're going to be healing. All right. So it just takes more time for that to get better. And so then, I get out my tools. I don't use a needle. I have this thing called a spud. It's like a corneal foreign body removal spud. It looks like a golf club, but it's got a little tapered edge to it. So I can dig, but I'm not going to go through the eye. That's key. Very, very key. You want to take out the foreign body from the front of the eye without going into the eye. That's why I don't use needles. It makes me uncomfortable. So I use this thing. I can just dig and dig and dig, and I get the thing out. Patient's anesthetized, by the way, obviously. And I tell them once the numbing drop wears off, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, but it'll get better. Here's some antibiotic eye drops. Please wear safety glasses. So corneal foreign bodies, that's like the most common thing. All right. If you get hit with something that's projectile that's fast enough, it could go into the eye. So then you're looking at, okay, an anterior segment foreign body or an intralenticular foreign body, which is just to say that the foreign body penetrated into the eye deep enough that it embedded in the lens. Intralenticular means inside the lens. When that happens, which doesn't happen very often, you have to do a cataract surgery to remove the lens, because once you have something that disrupts the delicate tissue of the lens, the whole thing will just turn white and become a cataract, because fluid has a pathway to getting into the lens that causes everything to go opaque. So if you have a foreign body, metallic foreign body that hits your lens, you're going to end up with a bad cataract. Well, we can treat that with cataract surgery. That's best case scenario for if a foreign body goes into the eye. All right. Usually it's through the cornea, the front of the eye, because we're looking at stuff we're doing. So we're looking at the whatever we're hammering metal on, and then it goes into the eye. And then we go and retrieve it. All right. The next worst thing is if it's a projectile that's moving fast enough to go into the back part of the eye. Then we're in some trouble, because there is very delicate tissue back there that we can't easily replace, or you can't replace at all, which is the retina. The retina. Retina specialists, they pronunciate the T, the retina. So if you have a retina specialist, make sure you do that, because they'll be nicer to you. No, that's not true. They'll be fine. They'll be nice either way. But it just gets you some brownie points. Retina, like glaucoma specialists, they don't say glaucoma. They say glaucoma. Just a little insider tip for you. That will probably never be useful in your life, but whatever. So a metallic foreign body that gets into the back of the eye, now we're doing a much more involved surgery. We're doing retina surgery. We're doing a pars plana vitrectomy, which means we go into the back of the eye with these fancy instruments, remove all the jelly in there, and also find the foreign body and remove it out. Usually, sometimes you use a magnet for that, little tiny magnet. You go in there and the magnet just kind of sucks it up. Sometimes you just go manually retrieve it. Kind of depends on where it is and kind of, how big is it? And that's a little bit outside my area of expertise. I've only seen the magnet used once by one of my retina attendings in residency, and it was because a BB, a legit fat BB, went into the eye for this little kid and lodged itself in the back of the eye, and they used a magnet to help remove it. Harrowing turn of events. And then if it's a bad enough trauma, like we're talking car accidents, fireworks, firearms, then you have a piece of metal that can actually go through the eye into the orbit, which is the space behind the eye. And at that point, you got a lot of problems going on. You got damage to the eyeball itself. You have to go back there and figure out a way to retrieve it. Sometimes you can just leave it alone and see what happens. It's the foreign bodies that are inside the eye. You typically do have to remove those if they're made of certain metals. There are certain metals that actually are inert, and okay to leave back there, like platinum, weird things. Things like copper, iron, you got to take those out, like the most common things. But like glass, sand, I think platinum, that might be one of them. There's some metal, I can't remember what it's like, knockknockhi. I've never seen it. It's one of those like never see type of things. But anyway, most of the time you got to remove the foreign bodies. So anyway, the point is, and the reason I started talking about this, and I've been talking about it for the last like 7 minutes, wear safety glasses. That's my advice to you. I've seen a lot of bad things happen whenever you don't wear safety glasses. When you're doing anything where there's any kind of projectile that could be coming at you, honestly, my kids just wear safety glasses to bed, because you never know. You never know. Okay. Other pieces of advice, we'll go more quickly through these. Say yes to public speaking opportunities. especially if you're in like a professional field where you have lots of conferences that you could go through, certainly in the medical field. I'm sure it applies to other fields as well. I'll speak specifically for the medical field. Um, Public speaking is, and I took a public speaking class in college. And also, by that point, I'd done a lot of stand-up comedy, and so I felt very comfortable in front of an audience. Um, it's such a useful skill. And I'll tell you, the pendulum is swinging back toward people wanting in-person things. The pandemic hit, there were no conferences, or at least it was all virtual. People are tired of it. I did virtual speaking, which is a form of public speaking, I guess, but really not. It's much different, and it sucks as a comedian because I'm talking to a camera and it's on mute. I can't hear anybody's reaction. Like I was telling jokes for like 2 years that I didn't even know they were funny because I couldn't hear anybody laughing on the other end. I just kept getting invited back to do talks to different places. And it wasn't until we went back in person that I was giving keynotes in person that I realized, oh, wait, this joke I thought was funny for like 2 years. Turns out it's not that funny. Kind of rough. But the point is, what I've learned over the past probably couple of years now is that like people are coming back. People are wanting human interaction. The people are tired of Zoom, tired of Microsoft Teams, and oh my God, all the things, Google Meet, all of them, and they're just wanting to be around each other again. And I think that's just going to be more and more important. The sense of community that even you don't really get now with the big social media platforms anymore. You don't find that sense of community, and so in the medical field, that usually means like conferences, grand rounds, just social events. And if you are good at public speaking, then you can get invited to do these things, to speak at these things, have your expenses paid, maybe even make some money doing speaking events. But it's also just if you do research, if you just have a cause you're vocal about, that you like to advocate for, it's such a useful skill. And it takes a proactive approach. Like you can take classes like to learn tips, ways to be a more effective public speaker. I think it's a worthwhile thing to actually devote time and energy to getting better at. And that includes like how to make a good presentation, how to organize a good presentation, figuring out some levity you can add into it, some drama, some storytelling. All of that stuff goes into making a good keynote or just any kind of public presentation. And so I just encourage you not to, even if it sounds scary, even if you're like, oh, I don't like public speaking. Well, I would say it's scary for everyone when you first start doing that. But it gets easier the more comfortable you get, about talking about the things you want to talk about. And you can have a real impact, whether it's advocacy or just making a little extra money. It's the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, and the more impact you're going to have with whatever you're speaking about. Highly encourage it. All right. Here's another thing I've learned. Here's a life lesson I've learned in the past year. This is specifically for people who maybe already are gaining quite a bit of steam on social media. You have kind of a following. Um, what you're going to find is you will start to get requests for podcast appearances. This is like a new thing that's come up in the last like 9 months, I would say. Every week, I get an invitation to speak on a famous person's podcast. Like, not like medical famous, like me, like I'm talking like real, like, general public fame, just any kind of celebrity, right? And because there's so many podcasts out there, like Conan O'Brien, for example. And I get an email from somebody that it wasn't Conan O'Brien's podcast, but just as a placeholder, as an example, it would be someone that looks like a very legit email address from Conan O'Brien's team. And it's like at conan.org. It looks legit. It looks very professional. And in the body of that email, it will say that we invite you to come and do a Facebook Live event or some kind of live Instagram event with Conan or with whoever it is. That's a scam. Just so everybody knows, like this will probably only apply to a handful of people that might be listening, and but it is absolutely a scam. I've seen people that later on make content talking about how they went with one of these things and they had their account taken, they had their money stolen from them. It's totally a scam. Like nothing, no Facebook Live events are done by like podcasters. Like that's not a thing. All right. So just that's just a little bonus tip from someone who's been doing this for a little while. Okay. Here's some some more things that I think will actually help most of you. Let's see. Oh, don't make social media content at work. That's a big man. Don't do it, especially if you're in the medical field. Just do it at home. Like I highly encourage medical professionals to like fight misinformation, make that content. Don't do it at work. I keep Glockenflecken and Will Flannery totally separate. I do not mix the two. I'm very purposeful about that. I want them. I have separate companies, right? So keep it separate. Don't make content at work. Don't have your like scrubs that you wear that have the name of your company, your hospital, your badge, none of that stuff. Oh, you're only get yourself into trouble. It's not worth it. Just wait till you get home. I know it sucks to have to like make content after hours, but you signed up for it. Like we all do it. And it's supposed to be fun anyway, right? So just be very careful. Don't get fired. That's like number one tip for content creation. Like don't get fired. It's not worth it if you get fired. We need your voice out there. All right, let's take one quick break and we'll come back with some more.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Well, what are you wearing?
Oh, my bubble cuddle blanket from Cozy Earth.
Oh, why are you wearing that as a hoodie?
Because it's the most comfortable I've ever been in my life, and I want my bubble cuddle blanket to cover as much of my body as possible.
Well, I get that. That's how I feel about their sheets.
This is just how I live now.
I support it.
Get used to it.
They are the softest things ever.
It's amazing. So head to cozyearth.com and use my code knockknock for up to 20% off site-wide. Because home isn't just where you live, it's how you feel. Let's go home with Cozy Earth. Okay, here's one that I learned once we moved to Portland, Oregon with young kids. Here's a great, cheap thing to do as a family, especially if you live in like an urban center or like a big metro area, is do a public transportation day with your kids. It's great, especially the little kids. But I think even with older kids, it can be helpful because they can learn how to use it, right? So that's part of it. It's like you're teaching them what public transportation is like, how to read a map, like a like a train map, how to how to pay for your fare, how to etiquette for how to behave on public transport. All that stuff is awesome. It takes a whole day. It's cheap, and the kids love it because you're riding trains and buses and stuff, and light rails, and it's great. It's great. We did it. We had a great time. And honestly, I probably need to do it again because it's been a while. So highly, highly recommend it as just a cheap, easy thing to do on a weekend with your kids. Public transportation day. Okay, here's a big one. Don't let influencers try to make you into a morning person. We've all seen the content, guys. It's like I start my day off at 4:30 in the morning. I work out before the sun's up. I have a full I have like 3 meals before I go to work. I've meditated. I've cured cancer by then. It's like they have a whole day before their day starts. That's fine. They can do that. All right. It's great. I think it's just like day in the life stuff. Maybe they're trying to motivate their followers to like do what they do, or maybe they're just like telling you like about them and what they do. I don't do day in the life stuff. It's not me. But it's you don't have to be like that. Like I don't let that kind of content make you feel bad about yourself. You guys, I have been influenced to try that type of thing, to work out first thing in the morning, to get up earlier, to exercise. And it just makes me, I don't like it. I don't, my go-to is getting a cup of coffee, standing on my porch in like a robe and just glaring at the people that are trying to run in the morning. That's the extent of my morning activities that I can do. I don't like it. I don't do it. I have learned to stop trying to force myself to be that person. All right. Some people are morning people. Some people are let's have a whole day before the day starts type of people. And they never tell you, by the way, that they go to bed at like 9 p.m. Like some people just like night owls. All right. Some people are somewhere in the middle. It's okay. You don't have to be that person. All right. What else? Oh, this is a big one. Can we please have some sidewalk spatial awareness? I don't know. Some people just seem not to have this, but this is more of a pet peeve of me specifically. And I first started feeling this when I was like a resident or in a med student walking through the hospital, and you get stuck behind people moving quite slow. Uh, and you can get mad at him because it's a hospital. People move slowly in a hospital. Like they're people that are elderly. They can't move very fast. That's fine. But I could feel like my anxiety going because like I got to be somewhere, but I can't move because I'm stuck here. So that's one thing in the hospital, but also just like when you're out in the street, like, you know, keep it moving. And realize when if there's people behind you, you're going slow, you're stopping to like sightsee, like just move off to the side a little bit. That's just my own personal neuroses showing up. The sidewalk spatial awareness, I'm trying to instill this in my kids. Like when you're in the airport and you're like, oh wait, I need to find something to eat. Don't just stop, right? Just gradually, like you're on a 2-lane highway, like gradually veer off to the right, and then where you're out of the way and you're not obstructing the flow of traffic. That's all I ask. Is that too much to ask for? Okay, we'll go on. A couple more. Look wait staff in the eye. This is something I can actually like. I can attribute this to my wife, who told me this years ago. She's like, we were out to dinner. We may have been in college at this point, maybe I was young, and she was like, I ordered something, and she was like, you should like look at the person when you order. I was like, what? Like I was just like reading the menu. I'm just like, this is what I'd like, this, but I'm not looking at the person. It's just common courtesy, right? And so look wait staff in the eye whenever you're like talking to them. It just like because they're a person and we are humans, and it feels good to have someone who's telling you something like when to look at that person when you're doing it. Just a small thing, but I think it does make a like just a big difference in just how people feel about you if you like look at them in the eye when you're talking to them. That includes when you're ordering at a restaurant. I told you this is going to be random. Um, okay, here's the last one. Before I get into some eyeballs, some more eyeball stuff. I've already done a little bit of eyeball stuff. All right. This is about testicles. So, as many of you know, right, I had testicular cancer twice. I found the cancer myself. I just woke up one morning, felt around down there. I was like, "Oh, that's new. My testicle is growing another testicle. Maybe I should get that checked out. That's not supposed to happen." And so, my advice would be to do like be familiar with your testicles. And it's always funny to me because I've talked about this before. The USPSTF, which is the like big they make recommendations like screening recommendations, like U.S. Preventative Task Force. So preventative medicine, they make recommendations on anything like cancer preventative things. And one of the things they put a recommendation out is testicle self-exams. And get this, they recommended, again, not against, but they said that there's no benefit to doing testicle self-exams. And so for a long time, even to this day, anytime I recommend that young men be familiar with their testicles, I'll get people to say, there's no actually data and there's no data to recommend that that's actually a good thing. On a logical level, let's think about this. You're really telling me that we should just maybe tell young people like not to touch their own testicles? If there's anybody that's going to be intimately familiar with a part of their body, it's young men and their testicles. Like we know what's going on down there. All right. And there's no amount of data is going to convince us that that's not something that we need to do. All right. We just this is human nature type of thing. All right. So here's what I posit. Here's what I say. If young men are already going to be very familiar with their testicles, shouldn't we at least teach them what a normal testicle feels like? Right? Like, let's put data aside. Isn't that just like a logical thing to do? So I very much push back on any study that says, oh, well, actually, you know what? There's no data to support testicle self-examination. So we're going to be feeling around down there. We're young men. Like, come on. Might as well know what feels normal, what's normal, what's not normal. Just a little soapbox I have. All right, that's it for my advice for today. I hope some of that was helpful. I don't know. I think I got to everything I wanted to get to with that. So 40 years old, advice as a 40-year-old. Happy birthday to me. I do still want to hear advice from you guys. So I asked about this last episode. The offer still stands. If you have advice that you have again, only people over 40, and we're going to limit to only people over 40. People over 40, give me your life advice. All right, what have you learned in your X number of years? You can be 50, 60, 70, but just if you're over 40, give us some advice. I'll read some of these next week when the episodes come out. So leave a comment on the YouTube channel for the episode at Glockhamfleckens. Go check it out. All the podcast episodes are posted there. I'd love to hear what kind of advice you have, or if you disagree with some of my advice, or if you really are against testicle self-examination. All right, so here's what we'll do now. I've got a mystery patient, which is not really a mystery. But I'll take you through my thought process. And I really appreciate you guys. I love you so much, my podcast listeners and watchers, that I have come to you with a neuro-ophthalmology problem. And because neuro-ophthalmology, it makes me queasy. It's hard. It takes a lot of mental effort to figure out. That's what we're doing today. So I had a patient comes in. Actually, here's what happened. Sometimes when the technician, they check in the patient, they bring him into the room, they start doing their examination, like their cursory. So they'll check vision, they'll check pressure, they'll do a quick pupil exam, they'll get the history, all that stuff. Do a refraction. Well, sometimes if things come up, what they will do is they'll put a little sticky on the chart, because we have just a little paper chart, not a paper. It's like just the fee ticket. We do all that still on paper. So they'll put a little sticky note that says, "Oh, can you come and do a pupil check?" Because they saw something that was a little bit unusual. or sometimes, usually it's pupil check. Sometimes it's double vision, like before they dilate the patient. I need to check the alignment of the eyes. So that would be something that to do before the dilation occurs, before you blur the vision. Certainly pupil exam, if I need to verify that there's an abnormal pupil exam, then they'll bring me in before the dilation occurs. I would say those are probably checking the surface. So sometimes patients have like severe dry eye type symptoms, and before we put dilating drops in, which can actually rough up the surface of the eye temporarily, they'll have me come in and do what's called a surface check, where I put a little dye on the cornea. I check, see how the cornea looks, and then we can dilate if we need to. So there are certain things that I'll have to come in a little sooner than I would otherwise normally would, because normally, first time I see the patient, they're already dilated for like your run-of-the-mill yearly dilated exam, except in these certain situations. So patient came in, the tech started doing their thing, and put a sticky note that said, "Oh, can you come do a pupil check?" Like, okay. So I went in, did my pupil check, and I shined it in one pupil. All right, normal dilation. Normal constriction. And then I shined it separately in the other pupil, normal constriction. But I did notice, this pupil is much smaller than the other pupil by about, I think I measured it at about 2.5 to 3 millimeters smaller. So quite a bit different. But there was no RAPD, so I didn't see any abnormal dilation with one pupil relative to the other, which tells me that the optic nerves are working okay. But I do have what's called anisocoria with this patient. One pupil much smaller than the other. So the next thing I do is I need to check this in light conditions and in dark conditions. Because even though one pupil, it seems like the smaller pupil is the abnormal one, you don't know exactly at first, because what if it's the larger pupil that's the abnormal one? What if that pupil is abnormally dilated? The other pupil is normal. That could be the case, right? So that's why you check pupils. You do this pupil exam in both bright light conditions with all the lights on in the room. Also, you do it in total darkness, right? You see what the pupils are doing. And so, what I found out that was when I turned off all of the lights, the difference between the pupils was much larger. I would expect the smaller pupil to get bigger, but it wasn't getting much bigger. So the difference in pupil size got a lot larger in the dim light conditions. And so what that told me was that the smaller pupil was the abnormal pupil, because it's supposed to dilate, but it's not dilating. It's not dilating like it should in dim light. If it was the opposite, if I turned the lights up way bright in the room and the bigger pupil, it didn't constrict, then I know that that's the abnormal pupil. But that wasn't the case. I turned the lights up, and all of a sudden, like the bigger pupil, it got quite a bit smaller. So they were more equal. So the difference in size got bigger in dim light, which told me that the smaller pupil was the affected one. Okay. So now this is great, because I've determined which eye is the abnormal pupil. Now, in this case, I pretty much knew the diagnosis quickly, because I also noticed that this patient had about 1 millimeter of ptosis on that side, on the affected side with the smaller pupil. So we had ptosis. Eyelid was a little bit droopy, and I've seen enough eyelids. I can spot pretty mild ptosis. It's when you've seen thousands of eyelids, every patient that you're always looking at their eyes, you can pretty consistently pick up small differences like that maybe like normally people wouldn't pick up. So I noticed that the eyelid was a little bit lower, but also you had meiosis, right? A smaller pupil. So ptosis, meiosis, what's the third part of the triad? Anhidrosis. There was nothing going on with this patient. I asked about sweating differences, and there's nothing there. But I pretty much knew what this diagnosis was. It's a Horner syndrome. I was dealing with a Horner syndrome, which strikes fear into my heart, not because it's usually bad diagnosis. It can be, but because it's hard to figure out. It makes my brain hurt. It makes my brain hurt a little bit. I figure it out, but it's not easy. It's not easy. All right, so let's take a break, and then we're going to come back. And for a few minutes, I'm not going to go into super detail, but I'll talk a little bit about Horner syndrome. Hey, Kristen.
Yeah.
I know that you love when I talk about the cute little mites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I thought we could take a break from that. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Yeah, because I'd like to focus on the eyelid symptoms and disease that an overgrowth of Demodex causes.
Okay, I like that idea. No mite talk.
So Demodex blepharitis, it often gets misdiagnosed or just missed entirely because a lot of symptoms overlap with other eye conditions.
Okay, so what are the top symptoms that people should look out for?
Usually itching along the eyelid margins, swelling, irritation, redness.
That sounds like it could be allergies or lots of other things,
It
too.
could be a lot of things, but exactly. And the key is if your doctor spots crusties on the margin of the eyelid.
Technical term.
Well, we call them collarettes, but crusties is a good term. That tells you it's Demodex blepharitis right there.
Well, I really like that there's a clear sign to know for sure.
And once you're diagnosed, there's a prescription eye drop treatment available for this disease.
Oh, that is good to know.
To learn about the common symptoms of Demodex blepharitis and more, visit miteslovelids.com. Again, that's miteslovelids.com to learn more. This ad is brought to you by Tarsus Pharmaceuticals. Okay, so Horner syndrome is a problem with the sympathetic chain, the sympathetic nervous system. So there's 3 neurons that innervate the sympathetics of the eye. It's a 3-neuron chain. Starts in the hypothalamus, goes down into the cervical spine. That's the first neuron. Hypothalamus to cervical spine. Second neuron is cervical spine to the superior cervical ganglion. So it goes down to your neck, back up into your head to this thing called a cervical ganglion. From the cervical ganglion, that's neuron number 2. Neuron number 3 goes from that ganglion up to the eye. So that's it. 3-neuron chain. When you have a Horner syndrome, there is something that's affecting that chain somewhere. It could be the first neuron, it could be the second neuron, it could be the third neuron. Your job is to try to figure out which one it is. Now, what we're all taught in med school is that there are different tests to try to figure out which of those neurons it is. So the first thing I've got to do as an ophthalmologist is I got to try to make the diagnosis and make sure I know that this is a Horner syndrome. So I'm already like 95% sure because of just the exam, the pupils that we just talked about, the eyelid position. All right. But I can also do a thing where I instill a drop called aproclonidine in the affected eye. And you do it in both eyes. And if the pupils change position, where the right eye becomes smaller and the the unaffected eye becomes smaller and the affected eye becomes larger, that establishes the diagnosis. I know it's Horner syndrome for sure. I know it. I don't know what's causing it yet, but just by doing that aproclonidine test, I know that because I have reversal, we call reversal of anisocoria. I know it's a Horner syndrome. We use aproclonidine for that. It's an alpha agonist. And because the alpha doesn't work in the affected eye, but it does work in the unaffected eye. That's why you get the reversal. Okay. So now that we know it's a Horner syndrome, then, we got to figure out where's that. I sound like a neurologist. Where's the deficit? Where's the lesion? I should say. Where's the lesion? That's what your neurologist would say. Where's the lesion, Dr. Flannery? So we're taught that there's different medications you can give to try to identify exactly where. Like you give hydroxymethamphetamine not methamphetamine, hydroxyamphetamine, and that'll tell you that if it's like a second order neuron, or you can do like cocaine test. Like there's all these things you can do. In reality, like we don't do that in the clinic. That's time consuming. There's false positives. There's you just it's maybe something you did before neuroimaging was so readily available. But now, if I have gotten to the point where I know there's a Horner syndrome, I've established this is a Horner syndrome, then we'll go to testing. We'll do an MRI of the neck, of the brain, chest X-ray as well, because sometimes remember I said that the sympathetics go down into the neck. Well, you could have a big lung cancer that's compressing the sympathetics right as they come down to the top of the lung. That could be affecting your sympathetics. So you get like a chest X-ray, and you get MRI or CT angiography, there's some kind of neuroimaging there, to be able to just image along the pathway of the sympathetic chain. And that'll tell you, if you have, any kind of tumor, mass, any like a carotid dissection, obviously. And usually there's other symptoms that come with a carotid dissection. Now, this patient that I was seeing, a little bit different, because this patient did not come in. They came in for a diabetic exam. Had nothing to do with pupil asymmetry or a lid. So I asked him, I was like, hey, have you ever noticed that your pupils were abnormal? He's like, oh yeah, I think I've seen that before. How often do we really pay attention to our own pupils? I was like, well, what about your eyelid? Have you noticed that it's a little bit droopier on that side? He's kind of like, oh, not really. Like maybe. Because like I said, sometimes ptosis, it can be very subtle. Some people know like instantly when there's like a little change in their appearance. Some people, Iowa farmers, for example, they don't really care. They're not going to pay that close attention sometimes. And so what I did, this is a very helpful tip for stuff like this, droopy eyelids. Ask to see their driver's license or an old photo in their phone. Pulled out his license, which fortunately was about something like 7 years ago. He had gotten this license. And sure enough, I got it my little magnifying lens, got a lot of light. I could tell his pupils were different. He had light colored eyes, which makes it easier to tell on photos. So I was able to tell that there was an anisocoria in his 8-year-old driver's license photo. I was also able to tell that he had the same level of ptosis on that side. So what that told me was that this was an old diagnosis. This was not new. It's been there for a while, and it looked exactly the same. So then the question is, okay, well, what do you do? Do you investigate this? Well, I ended up just watching him, and that's where we're still in the phase. I'm going to have him come back periodically to make sure this is not getting any worse. If I see the ptosis get a little bit lower, the pupils become a little bit more asymmetric, or he's having any other new onset of symptoms that might trigger us to do some imaging. But I have established that this diagnosis is not new. This is a chronic Horner syndrome. Who knows what could have caused it? All right, lots of things could cause it. You can just get, for third order Horner syndrome can be caused by migraines. It can be caused by headaches. It caused by, something could have damaged at some point. Could have had like a TIA, maybe a stroke years ago. We're not totally sure, but chances are we're not going to see anything, especially if it's been chronic, 8 years, hasn't looked any difference in his appearance. All right, so I'm following a little bit more closely. And we'll see. We may end up getting some imaging. It just kind of remains to be seen. But given the longevity of it, it makes me much less worried about the very devastating things you don't want to miss, like a carotid dissection, like a big lung cancer. Those are really the two like big things. There's a whole host of things that could, anything that could affect it. But anyway. So that's Horner syndrome. So I'm going to follow him a little bit closely. And, that's the thing with chronic Horner syndrome. You can just kind of just feel it out, see how it goes. I'm all about not doing any unnecessary testing. Chances are I'm not going to find anything if I jump to neuroimaging right away. So interesting patient. Let me know if you have any thoughts about Horner syndrome. If you have Horner syndrome, I'd love to hear your experience. But I definitely leave some comments. Our YouTube channel at @GlockhamFleckens. You can leave it there. I haven't gotten to any comments in a while. Next week, I'm going to be really going after them. I'll be looking at what you guys are talking about, and I'll go through some of those. So thank you all for listening. That is your Knock Knock Eye for the week. I am Dr. Glockam-Flecken. Thanks to my producers, Aaron Courtney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brick. Our editor and engineer, Jason Portizio. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Knock Knock Hi, Knock Knock Eye. It's a human content production. Thanks a lot.
Knock, knock, goodbye.
Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen, or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts, or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.